Hello! Excited to lead you through an interactive activity to learn more about what we call blended learning models. So let's get going right away. Remember, if the video goes too fast, or if you want to rewind and watch something, you can always do that in Edpuzzle. So let's go. So this is what we are going to try to learn together during this presentation. We're going to try to figure out what a blended learning model is, and in particular, we're going to look at two examples, very popular, station rotation and individual rotation, and what are similarities and differences between these two. We're also going to try to think about benefits and challenges of these models. And finally, it would lead us to a place of being able to start thinking about ways you could establish or implement some of these ideas on your classroom potentially. First of all, what is a blended learning model? So basically what we call model in the blended learning world is a way to structure the flow between online learning activities and face-to-face learning activities. So basically, how do we really blend practically? And so considerations such as when do students work online? When do they work with the teachers? When do they work independently? Does it happen in small group? All at the same time, at different time? Models are going to help us present that. And so there is really value in doing that thinking in particular because it helps us go beyond this idea of like, here's a tech tool and it's going to solve all my problem. By now we know that no website out there is going to teach students better than you. But if we think about a flow and a structure to complement face-to-face activity with online learning activities, then we can see growth happening. And that often happens when we design a way to go from one to another. And so we could be using models. There are two very popular models and quite effective. So we're going to start with station rotation, and then we'll move into what we call individual rotation. Station rotation is actually probably way older than blended learning. It's the idea of having different centers or stations with different type of activities and students rotating through these stations in a small group at a set time. So the most important thing to understand in a station rotation is regardless of the number of stations you will have and the purpose of each of them, students travel in a small group and spend a set amount of time at each of them. One of the most popular is the one here with teacher-led, online, and collaborative stations. So I'm going to stop talking for a second and give you a chance to think about potential benefits of a system like that. Video will pause and answer this question on Edpuzzle. Jot down benefits you're thinking of a system like that could bring. So now that you've done a little bit of the thinking, I will give you a couple that I've experienced benefits. One of them could definitely be to create smaller groups of students working with you or collaborating, and that could be really helpful in order to help them better. At the same time, it also could help you if you don't have enough devices to make sure that everybody has one computer. Another big benefit is it could open the door to differentiation because you can create groups based on data that you have. May that be concept they need to review or a certain level of achievement in reading or in math. And so then in a station rotation, if you know that these people are together, these students are together, then what they do with you at the teacher-led instruction can be tiered, can be differentiated. And also what they do at the other station, right? So it's a door toward differentiation. Now, start to think about some challenges that this could present. Video will pause and start to think about challenges to overcome. So there can be many, of course. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. But definitely, first, timing can be key because you have to coordinate that ballet and make sure that there is enough time to do everything at each station and that kind of like the time equals, right? There's also management. And in particular, when students are working remotely from you and if you don't have assistants, that can take some time in teaching and practice. And then another one is kind of coordinating that ballet in a way that you don't end up doing the same thing with every student, especially when they are with you. So if you're really trying to differentiate, you're going to have to think about different small group topics or levels. And then you have to kind of think about like who does what first. And that sometimes can be a little tricky. Finally, one of the big challenge for me is that system does not really give control of students of the pace at which we learn. they still have to move with a group of students at a set pace. So there's another system out there called individual rotation. And in this system, students have a lot more control over the pace. So let's explain it briefly. In an individual rotation system, the stations can still be there. They can be an online instruction station. They can definitely be, and they should probably be, a teacher-led instruction or a teacher support group or small group instruction. And they could totally be stations with collaborative activities to do. But as you can see in this diagram, students do not rotate anymore through all the stations, and they do not rotate anymore with a group of students. What I replace this with is a student at the center of that picture who actually has a variety of activities that they can progress through, this time at their own pace, at the pace that feels right to them. And then some of these activities might be online, some of them might be collaborative, some of them might be with the teacher, but they are going to move through this at their own pace. So they're rotating individually through the activities. So that's a little bit more challenging. One thing you have to think about right away is, how do they know how to do all these activities, and how do they keep track and progress through this and monitor their progress? So connected to the individual rotation system is a concept that we call playlist or pathway. And that is a document, sometimes it's on a website, such as Guru. And that is something that helps students knowing what to do and having a simple process to take notes about what they did and kind of be held accountable also for when they did it and what they learned through it. Google Doc is a very popular way to present these playlists of pathway. There are many other ways out there to do so. And then with that document, then students can have control over the pace, and you can also see what they're doing and know what they're doing and learning through it. So I'm just going to stop and make you think a little bit for a second in the Edpuzzle about what you imagine potential benefits for the system and also challenges. Let's do it at the same time. You can just say benefits and then challenges. Again, I don't pretend to hold the truth there, but definitely some benefits from this system is student agency and student choice and pace, because they don't have to be slowed down by anybody. They can spend as much time as they want on something. You can also set up a process that allows them to choose among the things that are there what they're going to do and justify that choice. So there's a lot more student choice and student agency that can be in that process. So it ends up being a lot more personal and personalized than station rotation. Now, I call this slide, let's make it real. Definitely challenges, because this can be so different for students from what they're used to do in a traditional classroom. There's a lot of independence. There's a lot of potential for choices. So one of the challenges is managing to stay on top of it and help them stay accountable to their words and their progress. And so often it has something to do with the way you create your playlist and organize it, but also systems you put in place to help students learn how to be independent and successful with it. But it's part of the beauty of it too, right? So that's it. That was my little presentation about station rotation versus individual rotation. I don't have preference of one over the other, and I don't think that that's something that should be used every day, all the time. But it's interesting to have these two concepts as you're going to think further about blended learning for you, because it might help you have a framework to think about how certain activities can be organized to best benefit students. Hope this was helpful. And now, after this Edpuzzle, there'll be a quick group conversation and an activity to help you think about it more concretely in your classroom. Thanks. Hope it was helpful.